Welcome back. This is Around the Crown. We're talking all things Sacramento Kings and beyond. Join the Royal family by smashing that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, you might as well hit that like button, especially if you are a Kings fan. All right, Cal, you want to remind them about All-Star voting?
Yeah, All-Star voting is going on until January 22nd. We have 10 days left.
Yep.
For you to vote for your favorite Kings players or favorite NBA players to make sure that they get their All-Star nods.
You can vote every day.
De'Aaron Fox is trending, perhaps?
Yeah. Rock the vote. We got to rock the vote here. All right. First topic of discussion here. The Philadelphia 76ers have begun to attach Tobias Harris to their trade discussions of Ben Simmons. This is according to Hoops Hype and a bunch of other insiders around the league. The tricky thing is Tobias has a contract that runs for 2 more years. He makes $37 million next year and $39 million the year after this. Ben Simmons already makes a ton of money.
Yeah, I think it's like $80 million combined between the two of them.
Yeah, so if you add these two guys together, that is a lot of money.
It sure is. And Tobias Harris just had an MRI done on his shoulder today. He has tendonitis in his right shoulder, so that's going to make it a little harder to trade him as well.
I mean, if you're a GM and you're having issues with a guy and you're not getting what you want, it turns into a salary dump, right?
Yeah.
The reason I heard that they want to trade these guys is because they want to go after James Harden. I think he has a player option at the end of the season, so he could technically be a free agent this offseason. We know about his relationship with Daryl Morey. He already traded for him once, so maybe he'll be able to lure him away from the Brooklyn Nets if he is able to clear this salary. One thing that Monty McNair had been very adamant about in his first 2 seasons with Sacramento was remaining flexible. So I think this is a huge blow to any potential Sacramento Kings deal for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, unless you can somehow work a 3 or even a 4 team deal, so you can get other teams to kind of help pick up the salary. I also read a report by Woj that says Harrison Barnes has become a player that potentially moves the needle on a Ben Simmons trade.
Oh, wow.
That's all speculation really at this point. He's not the only guy around the league, but he's apparently a type of player or one of the players that the Sixers are now open to. It wouldn't just be him alone. It would be a package deal, but
Interesting. Harrison Barnes, Tobias Harris. How you weigh him out here?
Tobias Harris, definitely a better scorer, more consistent scorer, probably a better shooter overall, although Harrison Barnes has really made a lot of strides from outside shooting over the past couple of years. But I think Harrison Barnes is a more complete player. He's a better defensive player. He's just a more solid overall type guy. Tobias Harris is a tier 1 scorer, though, 3-level scorer for sure.
And
he's healthy.
And he makes a ton more money than Harrison Barnes.
Lot more money.
One thing, that Vlade did right, and I think he did more than one thing right, but one thing he definitely did right was signing him to a front-loaded deal that decreased salary every single year. Yeah. I thought that was huge. Dennis says, I wonder if Peja is closer to the Mavs organization after winning a chip there. I don't think so. Maybe he's closer to the players that were on that championship team, but I think he'll be a Sacramento King for life.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I'm also reading reports here that the New Orleans Pelicans, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Milwaukee Bucks had seats reserved for pro personnel scouts at the Kings-Cavs game. This is usual. Maybe it's unusual. Jason Anderson from Sac B reported this. Maybe business is picking up for Sacramento. What do you think about this this information?
Well, again, it's all speculation. like Jason Anderson says, it's more teams than usual on any given night. However, the trade deadline is getting closer every day. And, it makes sense for a team like Sacramento that is supposedly in the fire sale type mode right now.
I want to know what the Sacramento Kings scouts are doing. Where are they? What games are they going to?
Yeah.
Because, it's all about trading guys. You want to send guys out. A lot of people have been, get rid of Buddy, get rid of Bagley, get rid of Fox, stuff like that. But who are you bringing in? They need to send those scouts out and target some guys, because I'm not just sending guys out to clear salary cap just to get anybody. I want to target specific guys that I feel like will fit this system, that will play well. We mentioned lots of different names of people that we want to bring in. So I'd be interested to see what they're doing. All right, Mike, have a good night, buddy. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you after the Rockets game. But, yeah, pretty interesting deal there. How many scouts normally go to a game? Do you know?
That's a good question. I mean, I wouldn't expect there to be a scout at every game, certainly, throughout the course of an 82-game season.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. As the trade deadline gets closer, you would expect to see more or have more seats reserved for scouts in general.
I got to get that job, man. I would love to have a seat reserved for me.
Yeah, I would love to be a scout. I would absolutely love that job.
Do you think this is
I would do more college than I would do pro, but
do you think this is a Sacramento thing, or this is just like every team below the 8th seed on, we're just going to send scouts to try and I know I do the same thing in fantasy football, is when my team's doing well, I look at the bottom like, okay, who's not making the playoffs? I'm going to offer them a trade, maybe 2 good guys for one even better guy, because they need to fill positions, and I need to compete for a championship.
I think that does make a lot of sense, but every team is in a different situation. I mean, I think you would be sending a lot of scouts to Lakers games, because the Lakers are anytime LeBron James is on a team, the trade deadline is really important, because he's always looking to improve the team going into the home stretch of the season.
Very true.
So depending on what the team's situation is, they don't necessarily have to be 8th seed or below for you to say, okay, let's go send some scouts over here. It just, you give it a feel for what the team is doing and whether or not it looks like they are going to be making some moves or looking to make moves. And it depends on what types of moves too, right?
Yep.
One team is going to be trying to sell at the deadline. The other team is going to be trying to buy at the deadline. So
interesting you mentioned the Lakers. I read an article this week that the Lakers have been going after Malik Monk, or interested in Malik Monk, for over a year. Yeah. During last season, LeBron's watching this guy and talking to some the front office of the Lakers, and they're like, we want to bring in Malik Monk. We like him a lot. He doesn't seem to fit in with Charlotte and what they're doing, but he's a great player, and he's playing incredibly well for this Lakers team. He seems to fit in perfectly with a guy like LeBron James. So that just goes to show that guys are paying attention. Guys are looking around the league, maybe not even to bring a guy in this season, but maybe next off season or stuff like that. But Malik Monk has just been playing incredible, man. I really like.
He's going to earn himself some money.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Unfortunately, he plays really well against the Kings, but I like everything I've seen from him. And I'm just going to say it again. Kings had 2 draft picks that year. They took De'Aaron Fox. I wanted them to take Malik Monk also. He was available. They took Zach Collins. They traded the pick. I'm not going to lie. I was happy we got Harry Giles. I was a fan of his since high school. Unfortunately, he had the injury in college, or multiple injuries in college. But I think Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox would have been an incredible combo for the Sacramento Kings team.
Yeah, we know they would have enjoyed playing together.
Right?
That's for sure.
Yeah, Dennis. LeBron smacked Bagley's arm. I mean, the refs were trash tonight, dude. All the Kings players were getting beat up, and the refs weren't calling anything. But I feel like I'm used to it by now, because it seems to be a regular occurrence. We saw the shot clock operator try and screw the Kings out of a game. And, welcome to being a Kings fan, I guess. Brian says, any speculation on where the Kings might be with draft and who we might be able to get?
Well, as of right now, they're still, on the fringe of another lottery pick. I mean, I would guess, I don't know exactly where they're projected, but I would guess it'd be right in that, 9 to 12 range again. As far as who they would look to take, I'll be honest, I haven't done a ton of scouting yet between working my 40 to 45 hours a week at my full-time job and then watching all the Kings games and doing these podcasts. It doesn't leave a whole lot of time left to watch college games on top of that.
You watch lots of other NBA games too.
I do watch some other NBA games, not lots. I watch some, but the Kings aren't going to draft anybody from those other NBA games.
That's true. That's true.
But I promise as the draft gets closer, I will start looking much, much more into that, and I'll be able to give a much better answer to that question.
Vinny, can you show my screen here? I don't know if you guys know about this website. I'm not advocating tanking, so don't take it the wrong way. But this is a really cool website that, as a Kings fan, I've been using for like 5+ seasons, maybe longer, because we are always seem to be in the lottery. So there's a couple cool things you can do here. One, you can sim the lottery. It says the Kings are slotted at the 8th pick right now, or maybe tied with New Orleans. You can sim your lottery here. It tells you, where you'll be, and then you can click on your mock draft too, and you can sim that as well if you want. So, I like that. Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, that would be great.
So, it's looking like a normal Sacramento Kings season here where, 8th pick, Keegan Murray, sophomore power forward out of Iowa.
A good player. I mean, all of these guys in the top 10 are good players right now. This draft, I don't think, is going to be quite as strong as last year's draft, but it's very top heavy. The top 4 to 5 picks in this draft are all going to be incredibly good pro players. Jabari Smith, who I see there at number 1, I will say he is my easily odds-on favorite to be the best player in this draft right now.
Yeah.
Not really a power forward, but power forward size. 6'10" guy out of Auburn, can do everything. He handles the ball. He shoots really well from outside. He's a phenomenal defender, huge wingspan. He has all of the credentials that NBA scouts are going to be drooling over. So, if the Kings can somehow get up into the top 1 or 2 picks, that would be amazing because they would have a chance to take a really, really fantastic player. But that's going to require either a lot of tanking or a lot of luck.
I mean, I think the top 3 picks here all have a ton of potential. And not saying that 4, 5, 6, none of these guys have potential either, but I think these
Don't sleep on Jaden Ivey. That guy is an absolute baller.
But I think these top 3 guys you're looking at, I think any of them could go number 1 in this draft. It's
as of right now, yeah. I still think Jabari Smith by the end of the year is going to be the clear number 1 favorite to be the number 1 pick, just because the NBA drafts so much on potential now. Yep. And not to say that this guy is still a work in progress, because he's putting together a phenomenal season already, but he's really young and he has every ounce. I mean, he checks literally every box: athleticism, length, handling. He can control the offense as a huge 6'10" guy. He can shoot from the outside. He has good post-up moves. He's extremely athletic. There's no more complete player in this draft than him.
Yeah, and I think if the Kings end up staying where they're at, if it's possible, I really like Patrick Baldwin Jr. a lot. I think he's a great rebounder. He can score. I think he would fit really, really well in this Kings team. What's your thoughts on Pat Baldwin?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think he would give the Kings he would add a lot of what the Kings need. We talk a lot about wing depth, outside shooting, defensive play, rebounding. He could help in all of those categories for sure.
I draft him in almost every NBA 2K rebuild that we do. All right, Vinny, you can cut that there. All right, I got another trade here to talk about. Calvin, your favorite. This one was posted by Heavy.com. It's a 3-team deal. It's actually, there's a lot of moving pieces in here. And it's a Ben Simmons trade.
Yep.
It doesn't include Tobias Harris, so maybe this is outdated. But Boston Celtics received Terrence Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Philadelphia's 2022 first-round pick, and it's a 2024 first-round pick swap from Philadelphia. Sixers received Jaylen Brown, Juan Hernan-Gomez, and Sacramento gets Ben Simmons, Jaden Springer, and a 2023 first-round pick swap from Philadelphia.
Shit happens, Gotham. No more dry January. Sorry.
How do you feel about this deal?
There's lots I like from this deal, and I think each team in this deal gets something that they want, for sure. Boston gets a point guard. Philadelphia gets another star player to pair with Joel Embiid, and the Kings get Ben Simmons, whether or not he is as coveted as we think they covet him. I still believe, just based off of the last few mega trades or really, really star players that I can remember being traded over the past few years in the NBA, whether it's Paul George or James Harden. I think that Boston, from what I kind of think I know about their organization, they're going to be wanting more for a guy like Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. More picks, De'Aaron Fox, and somebody else not named Terrence Davis. Because Terrence Davis, I'm not so sure how much he really helps Boston.
He doesn't move the needle.
Yep. So 2 picks, one that's top 5 protected and another pick swap plus those 2 guys. Yes, it is De'Aaron Fox, but I still think that Boston is going to want more for Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I agree. What's up, Progressive G? Good to see you here. Sean, what's up, Sean? Jeremiah, I see some F the Lakers. Shelly, what's up, Shelly? These games are rigged. I mean, they tried to rig the game, but we won anyways. Hopefully you're not a Lakers fan and saying that as a shot at the Kings, because I don't think anybody's rigged a game for the Kings, but I'd be open to that. But yeah, as you said, new information's coming out. Apparently they want to get rid of Tobias Harris. So as you mentioned, maybe a 3-4 team trade could make that happen. But wow, the Sixers are going to be sending out a ton of salary. So that either has to be a deal with, Detroit or somebody that can absorb a bunch of salary, or they have to be taking a bunch back, maybe 1-year deals, expiring deals if they plan on signing a guy like James Harden. I know Tristan Thompson makes a ton of money this year. He's expiring. You'd have to find a bunch of expiring guys. But at the same time, if I'm the Sixers or if I'm Joel Embiid, I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm not trying to just play out this season so that we can get James Harden at the end of the season. Like, we're a good team. Let's compete now. We need to win now. I've had injury concerns in the past. I've, been relatively healthy this season. Let's make a run now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And if you're looking at it from not just Joel Embiid's perspective, but the rest of the Sixers, they've been a playoff team in this Eastern Conference that is much, much improved all year long without Ben Simmons. Yep. Tobias Harris hasn't played a ton of games either this year. So if you can get one more guy who's a win now type guy, who knows what happens with them? I mean, Embiid is having he had an arguably MVP type season last year, and he's playing just as good, if not better, this season.
Yeah, I agree. And, I feel like the pressure was on Ben Simmons before, but I think it shifted to Morey at this point, where it's like, we already know what we're getting from Ben. He made it pretty clear. He doesn't want to be on this team. He's not going to report. He wants nothing to do with them. But if you're Ben or if you're Daryl Morey, your players have got to start getting upset with you because you're the one that's in charge. You're the one that's in control. This can't be another lost season. I don't know how many seasons have been lost seasons for the Sixers in the past 10 years. You can't just punt on the season. You have a guy that's I think, probably the best center in the NBA. And you have an
Jokic.
Yeah, and you have an
1A,
opportunity
1B.
to surround him with other guys. You got to make a deal, even if it's not for another all-star. You got to move on from this guy. You got to make a deal. If you think you can trade or sign James Harden in the offseason, clear cap space then. But this season, you got to be focused on this season. Brian likes Seth Curry. I like Seth Curry too. I wish we would have never let him go in the beginning. Progressive G, can Vivek call someone in Vegas to get Kings games rigged in our favor? That'd be sweet.
It would be sweet. I don't know how much pull Vivek has in Vegas, but it's worth a shot, I guess.
The Maloofs would probably be better off for that. But yeah, let's rig some games. Whatever that would take, I would be definitely down for that. Let's see here. I had another thing I wanted to talk about. I can't even remember it right now. Any other NBA news you want to talk about, Cal, right now? Or Kings news?
I don't have too much other Kings news. I mean, it was nice to see Rashawn Holmes back on the court. Yeah, on the court, not suited, but
I remembered.
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about Fox and Haliburton here, but before we do that, real quick, Kyrie Irving.
Oh man,
did you see the story that came out today?
I did. I didn't read too much into it, but I did see a headline.
Okay. I saw a story talking about how Kyrie Irving can play home games this season.
Yeah.
The Sixers have to be, the Nets have to be willing to pay the fines. Apparently it's, every strike, it goes up and then it levels off at was it $5,000 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
What a crazy turn of events. To first, we don't want a part-time player. You want to play away games? No, just stay off the team. To now, you can practice, you can play away games. To now, we'll break the law for you to play, and we'll even pay the fines. Is that crazy?
It is. Well, crazier things have happened. I'm certainly not surprised to hear this here today. If you had told me that that's eventually what would have happened when the season started, I would have been very surprised. But that was obviously before, 15% of the league was in health and safety protocol, and guys were literally picking up 40-year-olds off the street. And so it's a crazy world we live in. And if any team's going to do it, it makes sense it's the Nets, right? Because they're the team that has the record for the most money and the most consecutive years in the luxury tax, right? When Mikhail Prokhorov was the owner there.
Yeah, but he sold the team.
Right.
So he's gone now. But it's pretty wild. I didn't even know this was a possibility. I guess if I were to say anything, I'm disappointed in Kyrie's agent. Because if this was even a possibility, this would have been the first thing I would have discussed with the Nets at the beginning of the season. How much money did Kyrie Irving miss out on or lose by not playing these home games? If you could have just been I'll just pay a $5,000 fine every game, he would have been in the positive.
Yeah, most likely. Better late than never, though. They just got a big win over the Bulls tonight, so
it's wild. It's wild. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into a vaccine debate with you guys. Whatever your personal thoughts are, whatever. Everyone has their own different opinions. But it's just wild that they're willing to pay fines for this guy. It's a whole 180.
Oh, it's a 360 at this point.
Yeah, it's a complete one. All right, so let's talk about Fox and Haliburton. Interesting discussion I was having with a friend, Ethan. You know him. He's a token redhead guy.
I know Ethan.
So we were talking about Fox. We were talking about Haliburton. We were talking about how these guys impact their teams, what they can do, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I got a question for you, Cal. Do you think De'Aaron Fox makes his teammates better?
Yes, I do think that.
Because, this is not a knock against him, but his style of play, run fast, get to the basket, do his own thing. He does pass the ball, but he doesn't pass it a lot. He's not a pass-first point guard. like some guy like Tyrese would be. And we've seen him have a lot of incredible games this year where he's played really well and nobody else on the team has played well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that has to do with him or him dominating the ball or his style of play or just, guys not being ready to step up. Maybe the Kings not surrounding him with enough talent. But then you look at a guy like Tyrese, and I was telling Ethan, like, Tyrese clearly, to me, makes his teammates better. He puts them in better positions. And I guess I'm just talking offensively, maybe not defensively, but when you can pass the ball as well as Tyrese does and set up big men, play the pick and roll game the way he does, he just, in my mind, clearly makes his teammates better. And I don't know if I can say the same thing about De'Aaron Fox, but I want to hear your opinion.
Well, I mean, I think I agree with you in the sense of what you can actually see on the court and the when you lead the team or you're one of the top guys in the league in assists, that's something that's visible and tangible that you can say, yes, he does make his teammates better because he consistently gets the ball to teammates in the right situations for them to score. Therefore, they take advantage of playing alongside him. Therefore, they are better because of that. And I agree with that. And I'm not saying that De'Aaron Fox makes his teammates better than Tyrese makes teammates better, if that makes sense or if you're following me there. But you can also make teammates better in different ways. You can make teammates better in ways that you can't see on the court. Now, before I say what I'm about to say, I am not comparing De'Aaron Fox to Michael Jordan.
Oh, this is what I was going to bring up next.
But Michael Jordan is one of the first things you associate with him is that he made his teammates better, right? He's the total winner, the true champion. He brought guys along with him, and he brought them up. He built them up. He didn't pass a lot. He rarely passed at all. And he still made his teammates better because he demanded what he needed to demand out of them on defense, and he also gave them the confidence in clutch situations to step up and be great.
Yep.
Okay, now that's all I'm going to say about that. De'Aaron Fox is not that person. But I do think that when you're the best player on a team, and it's been your team for a number of years, guys look up to you, guys respect you, guys follow you.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about leadership on this team, and if there is a lack of leadership on this team. And while that might be true, even a team that has, even the worst team in the league still has leaders on that team. So for somebody like Davion Mitchell coming into this league, or even Tyrese Haliburton coming into this league, Tyrese is a great player, and he got off to a really good start. But I think having somebody like De'Aaron Fox on the team, it couldn't hurt him. It definitely had to help him in some regard. So I don't think that – I think Fox can make improvements in this area, but to say that he doesn't make anybody better around him, I think is a foolish thing to say.
Yeah. I mean, I partially agree with you there. You talk about De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton. I think that De'Aaron Fox has definitely helped Tyrese mentally and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's pretty clear you take De'Aaron Fox off this team, Tyrese is averaging 20 and 10. Not that that's, saying that he's a better player when Fox is off the court. It's just he has the ball more in his hands. He can kind of play more of his game. Ethan and I went down this crazy wormhole of LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. Both great players.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, Kobe is similar to Jordan in the way that he elevates his teammates in a different way that LeBron does, right? LeBron seems to elevate his teammates with his play on the court, in terms of setting them up, giving them easy buckets, putting them in the right position to do things. And not saying that Kobe and Jordan didn't do that, but I'm just saying Kobe and Jordan was more of a mental, more of a lift guys up, more of a be like me, watch what I do, stuff like that. And so we kind of got in, not a debate, but a discussion about where this team's ceiling was if they had one guy and not the other. And it was just kind of an interesting conversation to have. And I wanted to hear your thoughts and see if you thought that Tyrese made his teammates better than Fox makes his teammates.
So much of that conversation is really hard to quantify. I mean, you just mentioned LeBron is more of a make his teammates better on the court type person. I don't necessarily think that's true. I mean, I do agree that he does. He obviously is more of a facilitator. He's a great passer. Kobe and Jordan were not those type of people. They wanted the ball in their hands all the time.
Yeah.
But to say that LeBron doesn't have any type of mental influence on his teammates off the court or in the locker room
he
or
definitely
in practice
does,
or anything like that,
yeah.
Those are things that none of us see ever. Even media members rarely get to see intimate moments like that in a locker room situation or in practice. And again, this is maybe not worth mentioning because De'Aaron Fox is not in the same category as any of those guys, and neither is Tyrese Haliburton.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that it's really hard to actually put into words and numbers and physical items how much one guy makes his teammates better. Aside from, you can say, well, this person shoots X percentage off of this person's passes, and this guy is a great leader. He really rallies the troops around him, and he seems to know everything and calls out defensive assignments and all of that stuff. Those things you can see, but you also don't see the off-season, team building stuff that these guys do. You don't see the work that they put in every single day. You don't see the dinners that they have with each other at their house. You don't hear what they're talking about in those conversations. And those things do, whether they make a huge impact or not, they do build into making your teammates better, is all I'm going to say.
So how do you weigh that?
The question was, does De'Aaron Fox make his teammates better? And my answer to that is yes.
How do you weigh that out?
How much is a different story.
Yeah, how do you weigh that out? Because that was the problem that we had, was trying to figure out. So,
well, that's kind of what I was trying to say, is that it's really hard to weigh all that stuff out. And the easiest way to do it is to look on the court and to see how the team is playing, and what guys succeed together in certain moments, in certain situations, in certain offensive sets or defense, stuff like that. All of that stuff, builds up into team chemistry. There are only a minuscule percentage of people on the planet that are like LeBron and Michael Jordan and Kobe in terms of these apex alpha male leaders in a room full of men,
Yep.
You look around the league right now, outside of LeBron, I mean, how many other of those guys can you name on any team in the NBA? So I think it comes down, you were talking about what, the direction of the team or how the team looks with one on either Fox on the team and not Tyrese, or vice versa. And to me, that really just depends on who you're surrounding around them. The NBA is not a one-trick pony anymore. It really never was, but it used to be a two-man league where two guys could dominate and win a title. And now you need three, potentially even four guys. So no matter how much one individual makes his teammates better, you still need those other guys on the court. And to me, that's what this whole debate about should the Kings keep Fox or Haliburton boils down to. It's not so much one or the other. It's who are you going to put around them after the other one is gone? Because I think the team can succeed in both avenues, but it really depends on who is coming in.
Yep. Gridlock, welcome to the channel. Glad to see you here in the chat. Calvin and I are huge Miles Turner fans, and we would welcome a Miles Turner trade to Sacramento. So just to wrap up this whole section, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you were to trade one and keep the other, higher ceiling for the team, Fox, Haliburton.
Well, again, it depends on who I'm getting in return.
If it's the same guy. If you could trade Fox for Ben Simmons, if you could trade Haliburton for Ben Simmons or Siakam or Miles Turner, whatever that other guy is, if it's the same, which guy do you think gives this team a higher ceiling? And I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here.
That's
I know.
A very difficult question to answer, but I'll say this. If we're talking about Ben Simmons, Haliburton is the better person to put alongside him because De'Aaron Fox and Ben Simmons both need the ball in their hands, and Fox is not an off-the-ball player. He's not a spot-up shooter. He's not a catch-and-shoot type guy. You're not going to want Ben Simmons to shoot either. Mm-hmm. You're going to want him to kind of facilitate and do the things that Haliburton does right now alongside De'Aaron Fox. Haliburton, you do want the ball in his hands. You want him to facilitate as well, but he's such a great shooter, such a phenomenal floor spacer. I mean, he's like, they showed the stat during the game. He's like 6th or 7th in the NBA in three-point shooting right now.
The past 2 months, he's number 1.
Yeah. Over the whole course of the whole season. But I also think that there are players that you could put alongside De'Aaron Fox that would be a really great match. And it's still so hard for me to sit here and say that the Kings need to trade De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
The guy is incredibly talented, and I really think, he hasn't had – Haliburton's the best player that he's probably ever played with in Sacramento.
Yeah, and if they can play like they played tonight, or at least in the second half of this game, I really like the chemistry that I see from them. It's just whether they can do that over and over. I see some guys here in the chat talking about whether Fox ever had a guy that could average 20 points a game and stuff like that. I think Teddy had a pretty good comment here. It's hard for someone to average 20 if they're playing next to Fox. Hallie, on the other hand, can get you 20 points and 10 in his sleep. And it gives other guys opportunity to get 20 points versus De'Aaron Fox is kind of a different kind of player. He's the guy that, he's not a pass-first point guard. This is basically what this whole debate is about, right? Is a pass-first point guard versus a shoot or a driving first point guard. And, I think Haliburton is the traditional guy. If you were to look back at all the traditional type of point guards that succeed and play well, he fits that mold better. And De'Aaron Fox is kind of a new school guy that, give me the ball and get out of the way and see what happens. And it's interesting. I'm happy to have them both on the team at this point. All right, Cal, I think we are ready to move on. Anything else you want to talk about here in Around the Crown?
No, I mean, this is a really good debate. Obviously, it's something that we've been talking about, all season long, and we're going to continue to talk about as long as the Kings stay constructed the way that they are.
And they're losing.
Yeah, it's a tough problem to answer. I just pulled up De'Aaron Fox's career numbers real quick. 6 assists for his career per game.
Yeah.
That doesn't lead the league, but that's not bad. I mean, it's not like, I saw somebody say in the chat here that he's a ball hog.
Kobe's a ball hog.
I wouldn't
Jordan's
really
a ball
describe
hog.
him like that. Those guys didn't average 6 assists per game for their career.
Yeah, also
very different players.
Also didn't
very
play
different
point
players.
guard,
I
too.
understand that,
Yep.
but it's not like De'Aaron just gets the ball and it's a black hole. I mean,
yeah,
he is so good at getting to the basket, That's what you want him to do. But I think that if you put him alongside a really dominant big man, that would be an incredibly scary duo.
Yeah, I think Progressive G's got a good point here. He said he's never had a capable, consistent second option on the Kings. You know, some people are going to say, well, that's because he didn't put them in the position. But, you know, I agree with you. He hasn't really had that. He's had Harrison Barnes. We talked about Harrison Barnes being the second best player on this team. We called him the first best player on the team at the beginning of the season.
He played like it,
He was playing like it. But he's not consistent. And, yeah, it's tricky. They need to get more talent on this team. I think that's pretty clear. Kristen said he's so good at getting to the basket. He knows he's the best look a lot of the time. Yeah, and you know, to elaborate on that, one difference that I've seen in De'Aaron Fox in the past few weeks is that he's not looking to get a foul. I know we talked about tonight him getting frustrated when he got fouled and not getting back on defense, and stuff like that can drive you crazy. But as far as on offense and getting the basket, it seemed like a lot of times earlier in the season, De'Aaron Fox is trying to pick up the foul. He's trying to do that move and do the veteran move and pick up a foul. And now it seems like he's like, okay, the refs aren't calling stuff. I'm getting to the basket, and I'm trying to make the bucket. If a foul happens, I'll try and make the free throw too. But my main goal is making a bucket. And that's a huge difference in my opinion.
Yeah, it is, 100%.
I'm glad you guys are having this debate in the chat because I think it's very healthy, and it's an important thing to think about. You know, on a positive note, we're very lucky to have two of these guys that we both think are capable starting point guards in the NBA. There's not a lot of teams that have that, but at the same time, they need to figure out a way to get more talent on this team.
Yeah,
if you can't surround these two guys with talent, then one of them has to go, and you have to trade for talent. But if you can keep these guys together, if they can fit together, and you can find ways to bring more talent to the team, you know, more power to you. But it's obvious this Kings team needs more help.
They 100% do.
All right. Okay. You ready to move on? All right, we're going to take another quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at the Kings' next game and next week of basketball with Kings Crusade.